On today's episode of Locked On Avalanche on Monday, we came up with reasons to be optimistic. So today we're going to do the opposite and be reasons to be pessimistic. The Debbie Downers are going to love this episode. New episode of Locked On Avalanche coming at you.
You're Locked On Avalanche, your daily podcast on the Colorado Avalanche. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
All right, everybody. Welcome to the Locked On Avalanche podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Chris Maselli. With me, as always, is Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. Thank you for tuning in and making it your first listen of the day. Always appreciated. Make sure you're following us on our social media outlets, LOPN_Avalanche on Twitter, X, Locked On Avalanche on Instagram and Threads. Questions, comments, concerns, and opinions, Locked On Avalanche at gmail.com. And follow us on our YouTube channel. Hit subscribe, get notified when a new show goes live. Make sure you subscribe to our subtext as well. Link to that's in the show notes below. And when you do, you chat with Kyle and I one-on-one. We get your opinion, everything Avalanche related, which we share on this very podcast, which we will do today, sir, with our pessimistic views. And when I say that, I don't want people to feel like we are being the Debbie Downers and we are throwing in the towel on the Avalanche. I think every team has questions, and it's only fair to bring up both sides. Like you said, if you hadn't listened to the Monday episode, that's where we come up with the reasons to be optimistic and all the things that we are looking forward to and how this team could catapult into maybe going for another cup. And this side is not the complete opposite. I'm not going, I don't know which ones you came up with, but I'm not going to the point of like, they're missing the playoffs. It's not that doom and gloom. It's just there are issues within the Colorado Avalanche. So I think it's only fair to talk about those.
Yeah, I don't think I'm looking over my list right now. I don't think I'm going as far as saying this is a team that can miss the playoffs, but these are troublesome traits that could affect that very thing.
Well, you say the word could, because anything that I come up with, and I'm sure anything that you come up with, could still be addressed.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that like anything that we are going about to talk about. It is just, well, we have to deal with them, and there's nothing we can do. So, whatever we have. And I think the Avalanche are very good at doing that stuff. If they see a need or a problem, going to address it. So let's get into that. What are some of those needs or worries that you have for the Avs? I didn't rank mine 5 through 1. You did with the optimism view. Did you do the same thing this time around?
You bet I did.
All
I'm
right.
OCD to it.
Are you starting at
number
5? Okay, go ahead.
Quote unquote, the Avalanche way.
That's a good one.
So
Are you turning the corner on that then? Because we've always looked at the Avalanche way as a good thing.
That's what this is something to be pessimistic about. This is the year where it's really a proof of concept. Like since 2001, it does not justify the Avalanche way. Mm-hmm. So if you want to keep saying, don't worry, the Avalanche will do what they always do, when you're looking at a sample size that's a lot of second round exits, an occasional first, and one Stanley Cup, what is the Avalanche way? Yes, we know it's fast, and skill, but is it enough? We're going to find out this year.
Yeah, I think, there's two ways to look at that. And one is the Avalanche way has worked in terms of you're winning, you're getting victories, you're in the playoffs. Like, winning the Stanley Cup is a very difficult thing to do. And for 31 teams, you are going home with your tail between your legs. So there's just one team every single year that can claim it. So it's very tough to say, like, they're not successful. If your vision of success is winning the Stanley Cup and nothing else, it's tough to have a conversation with you, because you can't win that every single year. That is, and teams always say that's the goal, and sure, that is the goal. But as far as like the Avalanche way, I think it works in terms of results and victories and points and standing, and then getting into the postseason. That all works. Where I will say it's a question is depth. Like you can bring in guys in your top 6 role, even maybe down to a third line, and they seem to produce and do well in an Avalanche system. And it's that fourth line that seems to be a sticking point. The Stanley Cup team, that was good top to bottom. But outside of that, it's been a struggle. But that's also true for a lot of other teams in this league. Fourth line is very difficult to fill out and be like, that's a team that rolls all 4 lines consistently. You don't say that about a ton of teams in the league.
Well, I the reason I put this even on the list is because we loved, and justifiably so, we love to make fun of the Minnesota Wild, but they do very similar. They get themselves into the playoffs with Band-Aids and duct tape.
Sometimes.
Yeah, year after year, and they're always there. They're never in the bottom. They're always hovering in the points, but they're always there. The difference between the Avs and the Wild are the Avs have found success all the way once, but they're still bouncing around in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. And I want something else to separate this Avalanche way as a successful model.
Fair enough. I want to just get this one out of the way, and I didn't rank mine 5 through 1 like you did, but I just, we talk about it all the time, and it's going to get thrown in there. It's the veil. That's what we should call it. Val and Gabe. The Val and Gabe issues. It's just 50-50 for both of them right now. Yeah. So you just don't know. And I don't want to spend a ton of time on this because we have for this offseason already.
And we will.
And yeah, I was just going to say, this won't, we still have 2 months to go before the season starts. There'll be a lot more talking. But I think, you could probably throw that in on both sides of the equation, being optimistic and being pessimistic. But it is a glaring, we don't know, and what if, and we'll have to wait and see. So that has to make my list, bar none. So good.
Ironically enough, I didn't even put it on my list because I'm so sick and tired of it just looming over my head. It makes me sad. But then you think about it a certain way, and then it makes you happy. So it's depending on the day. That situation could go either way.
Right. It's going to be there no matter what. Get to your next one.
Number 4, easily, with the depth and the cap crunch, it's going to be Pessimistic face-offs. If you can't, it's been a problem since the beginning of time, but the Avalanche need to address the face-offs. Casey Middlestead is your solid 2C now. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to address the face-offs because you are going to be down. You are going to be depleted, and you're going to have to start winning face-offs at some time. It's eventually going to be a reason you lose games now.
I always it's a good conversation to have about face-offs because it's becoming more and more kind of accepted where people feel like face-offs are kind of like losing their value. And I'm just saying, like, I don't agree with that. Like, maybe I'll even go to the extent of like, okay, it's situational. Are all face-offs incredibly important? Center ice face-offs? No. But again, you can't tell me, you're going on a power play and you get that benefit of they bring the face-off in your zone. You're a man up and you're starting the face-off in your zone and you lose that face-off. They clear the puck. You got to go back and get it. 20 seconds are already off that clock. That's 20 seconds you could have had in your zone. Don't tell me that face-off is not important.
Yep.
And the Avalanche do lose them over and over and over again. And I love Nathan MacKinnon. We all love Nathan MacKinnon. He's we can now call him the reigning league MVP. Dude has just got to get better at faceoffs.
Yep.
And maybe it's just because he takes so many of them. He's going to lose more because we see him take more faceoffs than anybody else. But, you don't see that with Ryan O'Reilly.
No.
That guy's a machine on face-off. So I don't know what it is, but maybe I'm looking at it with MacKinnon of like when you need a big one, it doesn't seem like he comes up with it. So I don't know. I'm sure he works on it like he works on every aspect of his game all off season, but we'll see. I agree with you. That's tough. That is a tough one. That's a tough one. What time? All right. I'll just, again, this is another one. This is kind of in the realm of Val and Gabe. And it's obviously a reason to be pessimistic. You touched on it. That is their cap issues. We how is that going to play out? How will this go at the trade deadline? What can they do now for the rest of the offseason? Not much. What happens when Val returns? What happens when Gabe returns? Like, I would love to be a fly on the wall in the offices and war rooms of the Colorado Avalanche and know what that plan is, because they have to have a plan. You do not go into this season with the cap situation the way that it is and not have one specifically for those two guys. So, and then when that plays out, even if you figure all that out and those guys come back and you have to be under the cap, you are still, it's not like they're going to free up enough space for if Val comes back and his money comes back on the books, then they're going to have an excess of $2 or $3 million on the cap. No, when they come back, they're right up against the cap, which hamstrings you for whatever moves you want to make going forward. So it is, they call it cap hell, and that is exactly what the Avalanche are in right now. That doesn't mean, it's kind of impressive that they do have a very good team despite all of these cap issues, but can they make it better? And that's what the Avalanche really love to do. That's what a lot of teams love to do when, you're making moves around the deadline. And yeah, you can, money in, money out. I get that. But will they be able to make this team better with the cap situation that they have and make some moves that do make them better? It remains to be seen. I have faith in them that they can do it, but it's tough.
And they're not making it easier on themselves, because I'm pretty sure after the break, they'll already sign 2 more goalies.
Did they? I think they did. I think they did. Like for the Utah team, I thought I saw a headline somewhere that they did sign another goalie.
Yep.
Yeah.
They got to stop.
Yeah. I was joking. The other day was just like, yeah, they're going to have a line of just goalies out there and goalie pads, because that's all they're loading up on. So
this is the new Avalanche way.
Yeah, that is the Avalanche way. Be a goalie is the Avalanche way. All right, let's get a break in here. We have subtext people to get to and a couple more reasons from the both of us, reasons to be pessimistic for this season. We'll do that after this. Let's hear from Gametime. It's an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. And prices on the Gametime app actually go down the closer it gets to the first pitch. And with killer last-minute deals, all-in pricing, views from your seats, and their lowest price guarantee, Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying Major League Baseball tickets. What is on the Gametime app that you absolutely cannot live without? Well, they have the priority last-minute deals. You can save up to 60% off when you're buying last-minute tickets for sporting events, concerts, comedy, and theater. Flash deals, zone deals, all-in pricing. The price you see up front is the price you pay. No surprise fees at checkout. The seat from your view cannot beat that. Lowest price guarantee, or they will credit you 110% of the difference. So download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create the account, redeem the code LOCKEDONNHL, LOCKEDON NHL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right. So continuing our discussion on reasons to be pessimistic for this Colorado Avalanche season. Not to be super doom and gloom, but what do you got? You got a few more here. So give me your next one.
Doom's in my name. Number 3. When things get hard, when things get tough, when the Avalanche are down, when they're facing cap issues, old habits of becoming a one-line team and double shifting and running Cale Makar on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
This is not the year to do that, because guess what? To your point about the cap, you don't have the money to go out and fix that problem when you break it. You cannot go back to that old habit. You've got to keep cycling your lines this year, now more than ever, especially with Georgiev. Give him some rest as well. Lump him in that.
I have that on here as I put like in quotations like load management. Like we don't do that in hockey. We don't give guys days off. We're not the NBA. That's these guys are getting paid to play every day for the fans. So you're not taking days off unless you're
And you froze up there, but I completely agree. You don't give guys days off, but you also have to, especially like with the goalie position, you have to protect your investment a little bit and give him a night off here and there. But you are now back.
Mm-hmm. I am back. Yeah, like I said, you don't give guys nights off, but you can give them some minutes off. And I think that's what you were talking about the goalie when I froze up there. And yeah, goalies, Cale Makar, Devon Taves. Taves is up there in time too. Defense always. And then yeah, when you're saying, like when things get tough for the Avalanche, I get it. Like you do. Like if you're down in a game, you're gonna put your top guys out there more. And that's you should. Because that's your bread and butter. But maybe throughout the game, maybe, and I'm not trying to tell Jared Bednar how to do his job in any way, shape, or form, but if you're throwing them out there a lot towards the end of the game, are they already gassed because you've put so much pressure on them early in the game? And they've already built their minutes up. So bank some of those minutes, but that goes with depth. And it's kind of where I put these two things together is like, what is that fourth line going to look like? We've talked about it. We don't know, but whatever it is, it's got to produce. Has to. Like you saw what 4 lines mean. You can get through a regular season. You can do that, and the Avalanche will do that. But you have to be clicking on all 4 lines, all 3 defensive pairings, and your goalie come the playoffs, because that's that's what wins you a Stanley Cup. So I'm with you on that. They gotta take some of the not bring these guys down into 17, 18 minutes a game. They're gonna play 20, 22, which is fine. But the 28, 29 minutes for Cale Makar and Devon Taves, when is it going to catch up to them?
And see, and like our points are starting to weave here now, because that's my second point of reason to be pessimistic. After the playoffs last year in the Dallas series, especially, you're talking about being down and rolling the lines like they do. Who's the next man up? I would like other than the top line last year in that Dallas series, there was not that unsung hero, the Darren Helm, just the guy having an incredible leaving everything on the ice moment. And you're going to need somebody to step up and be that next hero. And you haven't seen that yet. And your image of the team walking off the ice in that series, you didn't see anybody other than that top line really giving it their all. And unless somebody steps up, depth is going to be an issue.
Yeah, I want to be optimistic about that, and I am, because you're going into the season and be like, hey, we have new guys or young guys or prospects, and that gets you excited. Hey, these prospects that we drafted to be a part of this team, they're getting their opportunity. But it's not a slam dunk that, it's tough to come into this league and make a dent. It's not easy. So, where are they going to start out? Where is Kovalenko going to start out? Some people already have him on the second line, which, hey, maybe that would be better for him to play with, better, stronger talent, but it's not a guarantee. Nothing is a guarantee. And we've seen with Avalanche prospects lately, sometimes it's a struggle. There's been a lot of them that are no longer here. So we love the prospects when they haven't played a lot. We all love them. And then when it happens, it's like, okay, now the reality is setting, and not giving up on them, but we all want the Cale Makar just hitting the ice and he's automatically the greatest thing in the world. Same with Nathan McKinnon, Mikko Rantanen, even Gabe Landeskog, but that doesn't happen all the time. So is it going to take time for whoever's on that fourth line, if it is the young guys, to get going? How long that takes? Are people going to be patient? And when I say people, fans. I know the Avalanche will probably be patient a little bit, but will the fans be patient? I don't know. We'll have to see.
And that loops into my final point, and this is almost blasphemy. So everybody, if you're listening, hold on. What if it doesn't work?
Which part?
All of it. What if this team, after last year, having to basically do a redo at the trade deadline, you don't have the money to really go out and do that, and especially the assets. What if it doesn't work? What if the Avs do miss the playoffs? What does this say about McFarland? What does this say about construction? And how bad do we start to villainize Val and his contract situation for handcuffing us there, and Gabe for 3 years still doing this thing, and we're still having to juggle that money? Does this kind of make us view that as a situation as well? What if it doesn't work? That's what scares me, because you don't have the money to go out there and fix it. Oh, and I believe you froze again. But that's the number one thing that concerns me is after last year, when it didn't work, the dream roster didn't come to fruition, you have even less to fix this if it doesn't work this time.
Yeah. My internet is not liking this discussion, clearly. So it's
I said
trying
it's
to freeze me out. It is, yeah. The issue is you not having the funds to go fix that, so it'd have to be money in, money out. So you're saying, like, what if it doesn't work? I'd go even a step further than that, and the reason why maybe it wouldn't work is not because of what the Avalanche are doing; it's what everybody else in the division is doing. The division got better.
Yeah.
So the Avalanche, I think, will do what they normally do. And I feel like if all things are clicking, they'll be comfortable in a playoff spot. But you don't know until you play these games. So if things are not clicking and the Avs are struggling, there's teams that are ready to take that next step. Are they ready to take the next step enough to challenge the top teams in the division for a playoff spot? I think maybe I think if we have this conversation next year, maybe we're a little bit more scared, depending on what the situation is with the Avalanche in terms of the cap and all that other stuff. But there are teams in the division ready to start rising, and they have to play games too. And go talk to Ottawa, who's expecting, year after year to be making the playoffs, and they keep just falling to the bottom. So you got to play the games, but there are teams ready to make that next step. So it's a combination of, it's going to be tough to make some moves, and other teams are really on your tail. The mid teams are really on the tail of the top teams in the division. And on top of that, the last thing that I have is I don't really feel like the Avalanche really got bigger. They didn't. I mean, that is, you talk about being healthy in the playoffs and everything's going to be clicking, all the lines, all the defensive pairings, all, the goaltendings need to be clicking, but you need to have some size in the playoffs as well. And again, what the Avs do can get you through the regular season. You can have a really good regular season. But when you hit the playoffs, you've played 82 games and you're a little bit beat up. The whole nobody's 100% thing. And when guys start knocking you around, it hurts a little bit more. So all they had, it's like they brought Parker Kelly in, who's not even a guarantee he's going to be on that fourth line. Yeah. So he's your muscle for your forwards, and you have Josh Manson, who's your muscle for the defenders, and that's all you got. You have one guy to kind of be, I don't want to say an enforcer, but to survey what's going on for the forwards and protect them, and one guy to protect the defenders. You need more than that, and the Avs just don't have it. They don't play that way, so I don't think they're going to go out and get it. But that does it does raise some red flags for me come playoff time.
Yeah, you can't say Calvin DeHaan is the answer either.
No, because he's always hurt. So if Calvin DeHaan plays 65 games this year, I think that'll be good.
That'll be a success.
Yeah. All right, let's get one last break in. We'll come back. We'll do some subtext stuff, and then we have a front office survey that The Athletic put up. We don't have the results for it yet. It's just the questions. When the results do come out, whenever that is, we'll talk about the results, which would be interesting. But we'll throw out the questions that they asked and our responses to them. So we'll do that next. All right, I want to get to some subtext people here based on the conversation we have about the pessimism. Madam Battleaxe. So she says, without pointing out the obvious, Val Nichushkin and Gabe Landeskog, she's pessimistic on the depth. Just doesn't feel like we have any. The Logan O'Connor status. Will he be all right skating, or will he have to have some more time? So what is the status of the Roaring 20s line? They said he'd be okay, right? I remember
that means nothing to me with this team.
with this team. It's so true. It's so true. So that is a good one. And then she says the Utah Skating Club is how she said it. I think they have a minor chip on their shoulder and are going to have something to prove. They make me very nervous. Not to mention what their mascot will be, which we're all thinking it's going to be the Yetis. But so as we were just saying, the division got better. She specifically thinks Utah got better. I'm inclined to agree with her.
I won't believe it. I won't believe it.
You don't think so?
No.
Do you? I mean, you have to admit they're going to be improved, though, right?
Well, I mean, it's the remnants of Arizona. Anything's improved.
Yeah,
they're at least going to have improved attendance. That's for sure.
They definitely will. I love how they sold so many what is it? Like clear sight seats, not non-obstructed seats. It's like you're okay. What is it? How bad of an obstruction is the obstructed view? See that? God.
Yeah, I was like, wow, this is a factor.
Yeah. And let's see. Vargar says, I would have traded Nichushkin after Seattle incident. I was 100% sure that wouldn't happen, and I wanted him gone when the trade value was at his highest. The Avs won't win with Nichushkin on this team, and he diminished his value. McFarland needs to win a trade for once, a la Sakic. But then I asked him, you don't think they won that Middlestat trade? I feel like
jury's still out.
I think so. I would agree with you. Maybe jury's still out on that. So, all right. So speaking of Chris McFarland and the front office, The Athletic put up a survey, and they do this every year where they get feedback from all 32 fan bases. And then they put these answers into some machine that spits out some ranking for front offices, and they rank them. I don't have in front of me where the Avalanche ranked last year, but it was pretty high. So for this year, there are usually the same number of questions. They're very basic. And there are three questions are you can fill in, write whatever you want. But most of them are 1 through 5. 1 is not confident at all. 5 is very confident. So let me get your take on these, sir, if you are ready for this.
Bring it on.
First one is roster building. 1 through 5. Again, 1 not confident at all. 5 very confident. So what do you give roster building?
I say roster building. I would say a 3 right now, honestly, because this is McFarland. This is not overarching Avalanche. This is McFarland. It's still a 3.
Yeah, I'm there with you. It hasn't fallen flat. You've gotten some good signings, and when you say roster building, we're pretty much talking about the depth guys, right?
Yeah.
Because your top guys have been there for a while now, and a lot of that building was done through Joe Sakic, and this is all prospects and depth.
Yeah.
It's been hit or miss. There's been some good ones. There's been some obviously bad ones. Ryan Johansson. But yeah, I'm with you on a 3.
Yeah, it's you really got to go through this exercise and label what has McFarland's fingerprints and what has Sakic's, and it'll really help you understand this a lot better.
Next one is cap management, 1 through 5.
4, because of what they've had to do this year to put a team together.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I think this could even, depending on what happens with Gabe Landeskog and more specifically Val and Gabe, this could go up to a 5, depending on what happens.
Yeah.
The end result of all of that. When we know if he works some magic where he either makes a trade or just does something, or even keep him and he works out. But I think they have done all things considered, the fact that this team is widely considered to be a top 5 or 6 team in the league, despite all of the, again, cap hell issues that they're going through, is a job well done by the front office.
They'll lose points if they're holding both contracts at the end of the year for me.
Yeah. So maybe this is right now it's a 4, but jury is still out a little bit on it. But what they've done, I kind of feel like what is yet to come, they will handle it pretty well.
Yeah. So
pretty confident. Drafting and developing, 2. 1 through 5. See, I disagree with that. Not going, to a 5 or anything like that. But tell me why a 2.
Well, again, this is a short sample size for McFarland.
Right.
But other than Cale Makar,
who he didn't draft. So that's why I'm saying, like, this is it's tough. It's tough to really give him a low grade. It's tough to give him a high grade on this because he's only had 2 drafts. So we like his we have Callum Ritchie, which is looking good, but again, you got to play the games. Gulyayev, who all signs are pointing toward him being good. And then you have what happened at this year's draft, which was trading out and you're stockpiling goalies. So again, this is another one where it's jury still out, but I don't think you can ding him yet because we haven't really seen what his draft classes have done yet.
What's your favorite Eagles call up? There's no, like, it also, I know you can't really fault him much for the draft, but development really hasn't been there. And this goes back to Sakic. Like, it's been kind of stagnant.
It has, right. That's why I would try to give him a 3 right now. And this is a completely different conversation in another 2 years because we'll have more of knowing what these guys have done or not done.
Yeah.
So maybe you have to wait a little bit on that. Trading 1 through 5.
I'm going to give them a 4 because they had to what they did last year.
Yeah.
And I mean, be bold enough to get rid of Bo Byram to fix the team. That you get some kudos there.
Yes, I think that it's heavily weighed on this most recent trade deadline. And it's, a lot of people want to be like, oh, the Sean Walker deal, you lost that because you lost a first-round pick. But again, I go back to when these trades happened, we loved them. Loved them all. And yes, you took a risk on the Sean Walker thing by giving up a first-round pick. But what Walker brought to you was pretty good.
Yeah.
Very good, I would even say. So it didn't work out. So now you can have the hindsight glasses and be like, oh, what'd you do that for? But teams do that. Teams take chances and do rentals. The Avs don't do it a lot. So it turned out that it was with Walker, but that was a good trade to make your team better, to make a run. That's what you want to do. The Middlestat one, like you said, it was a risk getting rid of Byram because he's got all the talent in the world, but you needed the 2C. You had to stop answering those questions. So that's a good one. But yeah, you have the duds too, the Ryan Johanssons and all that stuff. But overall, like when those moves are made, I like them. So I'm with you.
And I don't think they lost the Sean Walker trade because the Winnipeg series was fun. Thank you, Sean Walker. And being able to get there had a lot to do with him too.
Yeah. The vision for the team, 1 through 5. Really? This is as bold of a 5 as I could give.
Why?
The vision for this team is always to win the Stanley Cup. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Like they are not in the rebuild mode or let's stockpile picks or let's go get prospects. This team wants to, they do the best that they possibly can to put out the best possible team. So the vision for this team, I don't think is in question at all.
Well, they know what they want to do, but it's still, this goes back to the points of pessimism. Like, yes, it's paid off one time, but to say we have Nathan McKinnon, Cale Makar, Mikko Rantanen, and then you keep cycling out the supporting cast.
I think you're looking at it the wrong way. Like, yeah, you keep cycling that out. They're making the moves. It's just, what do they want? What do the Avalanche want? They want and go fight for a cup every year.
You find me one other team that does not have that same aspiration.
I'll give you a dozen of them.
Every team believes in what they're doing, that they could get themselves to a Stanley Cup.
That they can get there, yes. But you're not like a team like San Jose. Like, sure, their vision is to get a Stanley Cup, but that vision is 5 years away at a minimum. So their vision right now is to get better, not to win a cup. So, and so a team like, let me think.
Like even like San Jose, the Ducks, Utah, Columbus, they feel like they are all.
Columbus is a great one.
They all feel like their focus is on winning a Stanley Cup, whether it's this year or next year, or they're a couple pieces away. They're continually building. So are the Avs. They understand we have top line figured out, and you have Cale Makar, but they're also still a couple pieces away from finally making it work. They struck gold in 2022 with that roster top to bottom to make it finally work. Right. But since then, it's understandable.
But the vision of the front office doesn't change. The moves might not work out. That's different. The moves might not work out. And you mentioned Columbus. I think Columbus is a great one. I don't think Columbus has a vision of Stanley Cup aspirations at all right now, and they shouldn't. They shouldn't. So, but do I feel like the vision of that team is what right now? Can you explain to me what the vision of the Columbus Blue Jackets is right now?
Oh, they're at rock bottom, and that means it's a clean slate. We could put this team together, and they believe that what they're doing, everybody, if you're in a position of management in the NHL, you believe you could turn your roster into a Stanley Cup team.
Sure. But I think some front offices view that vision much differently. And I don't think the vision of what the Avalanche front office is and the vision of Columbus are night and day. Night and day. We could go on and on about this for that's actually a very good topic, and maybe we'll cover this a little bit more in a future episode because interesting, very interesting. All right, and then finally, real quickly, how has your confidence in this team's front office changed in the last year? More confident, no change, less confident.
Less confident.
It doesn't change for me. Has not changed for me at all.
The off season of last year.
Mm-hmm.
However, a lot of it didn't work out, and then immediately pulling the plug on Tatar, and I don't know. It did not seem as I'm not as confident, and I don't think they're as confident. Mm-hmm. So we'll see how this season goes, and it'll probably be a complete flip for me next year.
All right. And then the final two questions. Let's see. Let's start with what's the worst decision made by this front office?
Letting Erod walk out the door.
That's exactly what I have. That's the exact same one that I have, man. I am with you on that. I think looking back on that one, he didn't cost you a ton of money. He was doing well here. He liked the year that he had here. I think that one is one that they are regretting secretly. Yep. And then the flip of that is, what is their best decision?
Well, McFarland doesn't have a lot, but getting Middleset in here for as long as he has.
Yeah, I think that's an easy answer, which is why I didn't put it down. You could. That was a very good move, and I think 99 people out of 100 probably say it's that move because 2C was just so needed. I am putting down drafting Ilya Nabokov.
Ooh, I want to see how that pays off.
Yes, I do too, and we won't know for a little bit, but the more I sit on that, here we are talking about how his best move is Casey Middlestat because 2C is a glaring need. Not saying goalie is a glaring need, but after this year, it could be something that they really have to address. And going out and getting what was widely considered the best goalie in the draft class, how they did it, drafting or trading out of the first round because you just had so thin on draft picks. Picking up draft picks and getting him could be one of those things where down the road we're looking back at it and like that was a brilliant move by him because it could be a very big need that this guy here could solidify for you.
Well, if the Avs can't put this together and have a successful team this year and possibly next year, you're never going to see Nabokov in an Avalanche jersey because he's going to be a piece of putting this roster together. He's going to be something to go out and fix this team because of cap constraints this year. And you got next year. You don't know what's going to happen there. Mikko's still not signed. So he might be a trade piece that helps make that big move.
Oh, God, no. I can't go there right now. I mean, with all those, maybe all those other goalies that you drafted are trade baits.
But this is
trade those.
If you don't have a lot of money and you don't have a lot of value and people are still sniffing and passing on Sammy G and Josh Manson at this time. Like, you got to find value somewhere, and that's.
But he won't cost you a lot. I mean, he won't cost you anything. So at least for his entry level, it's not going to be a lot. So, we'll see where that goes. But I think that, when the time comes a few years from now, we might look back on that and be like, that was a good piece of business that the Avalanche did.
It feels like
We'll
it
see.
right now.
Yeah.
That's for sure. And you froze, so I completely as of right now, that's one of those things you can add to, and we could point back to a couple years in the future. But unless things get corrected, it's one of those, why would he want to? And then you just trade him out and put this team together.
All right. My internet just wants me to end this episode, so I am going to do that right now. I promise the internet gods we will not be so pessimistic for the rest of the off season. So let's wrap this thing up because my computer is going to blow up. And we'll see everybody on Friday. Like we said, we're switching to Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays for the rest of the off season. So until then, thank you for tuning in and making it your first listen of the day. Always appreciated. He is Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. I am Chris Maselli, and this is the Locked On Avalanche podcast. We'll see you guys on Friday.